Hello. We had some technical difficulties. I have just started a new Facebook Live video, so later on I'll go and mash the two together. I've uploaded the previous one just for a second. Hopefully, those of you who are watching will suddenly realize that this live video is happening right now on the Hoshinden page. Hello, Hannah, and those who join. Can you tell me if the connection is better? Thumbs up if the connection is much better. Hello, Lisa. Welcome back. And others who just joined. If you can see me, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Not quite sure what the technical issue was that we just were having. I ended that live video, started another one, and hopefully it's all good. Can you see me? I'm not just a rainbow blob. Okay. Let's see how far we can get with this. So, this separation is going to hit the ground running where we left off. This experience of separation between that which is going on within and the sensations of the world. At times where we become overwhelmed, the gap between them narrows out. And it feels like the experiences of the world are directly pulling the strings of the experience inside my world. What if we found that if we were able to breathe, if we were able to just sit in the middle of us and witness these observations and experience these sensations, then it's almost like the ripples of these events around the world. They wander in, and there's this slow velocity of that wave, like around us, like a little bubble, as if we're kind of in like a little watery pocket. And these events, they ripple in, we see them, and then they enter this pocket and they slow. And what we find is that which seems to us like we have more time to watch these things playing out. Big changes in the world and world sensations happen, and yet within us, we're able to look at them and we see them coming towards us. But we have opportunity to kind of have some padding, and it feels like a bit of padding. And in that padding space between the emotional upheaval of these events, these external circumstances, and the center of us, there's some time for us to breathe and look and observe and kind of get to set up the experience that we'd like to go into that with. So it would be as if I could slowly hear sounds from far away, and I could hear the beginnings of some issue. And they start rumbling, it gets a little bit louder, a little bit louder, a little bit louder. And I'm well aware that there's some issue growing, building. I can hear it, and it's already there. I'm just the one who has to sit down and listen. Take the time to listen, and I notice it. And then when things arrive, I'm less shaken. I'm less thrown about. They didn't just come out of nowhere. Imagine you're sitting there, you've got headphones on, maybe some of you do now, and music, and you really focus, and all of a sudden someone comes and taps you out of the shoulder out of the blue, and you do a triple backflip and jump through the roof, bring the chair with you. Well, they've been walking towards, maybe you live in a house, maybe your partner has been walking towards you for a minute or two, stepping loudly, opening doors. All that information's been there, you've just been oblivious to it. So it's not that all of a sudden this thing happened, it's that all of a sudden you became aware of this thing that was in the process of happening. Same is true of these events in the world, these circumstances. If we can remind ourselves to take moments to listen, always love doing that because I know half of you just listened and heard things outside then. I did. If we can take a moment to remember that we can smell. And taste. Feel, experience the tactile sensation of the body where it meets the ground, or perhaps the temperature of the air around you. And the softness of colours, phosphors behind the eyes, between the eyelids and the eye. Or if you have your eyes open, the symbols, the colours, the shapes, the meaning that we make out of abstractivity. As we just take 5 breaths, big breaths, in through the nose, down to the belly, and then up and down. And we're listening, hearing, smelling, tasting, seeing, tactile, touch, feeling touch. Again, hopefully you're able to experience that there's a little bit of padding. And the padding is not because you've isolated yourself from the world. It's the opposite. The padding is there because you become connected to the world. You become present to the experience and sensations of the reality around us. And then the information is just information. Think about when you meet someone for the first time. That's just the way they are. It's just the way they are. You meet them, if they're a bit funny, that's just the way they are. You don't think much of it. If you meet someone absolutely incredible, it's just the way they are. You don't think much about it. If a week later you meet the same person and they are completely different, 180-degree character change, then you think it's really funny. But if you'd met them a week later, and in this character change, it's just the way they are, you just accept it, you wouldn't really compare, there's nothing to reference to, it would just be the way it is. So if we've set up these expectations for how we think things should be or how we think things are, then we become surprised, we become shocked, we get thrown around by the emotions of that. And I say we because I'm included in that group. We're all humans. It's all an unfolding practice. Just ask anyone who lives with me or is close to me, and they'll tell you that that's true. So, so meaning there's hope at home as well. So in that idea, as I just listen, I'm not really expecting to hear something. I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm listening out for that tap that's dripping. While I'm listening for the tap that's dripping, I'm missing the cars that are driving, and there's a dog that barks. I didn't know there was going to be a dog that barked, but the dog barking didn't. I'm just interested. And when you've reached your mind of interest into sensation, then the things that come up are just parts of the picture. They're not affronting your expectation. So you really have to do away with this idea of meditating on a mountaintop in peace. Think instead of like maybe meditating on a mountaintop looking over the war that's occurring in the valley below. Meditating on the mountaintop next to the soon-to-be erupting volcano. Yeah? Or meditating on the ground in your flat, in a slum, in some awesome first world country. That's just where you are. It's just the experiences of the world. They don't necessarily have to be shocking. It's just waves moving, experiences changing. Before we move on to our physical, tangible sensation experience activity tonight, I want you just to take a moment, and as you just breathe in through your nose, down into your belly, breathing out through your mouth. Tongue sits on the roof of your mouth. You just listen to the sounds that you can hear. Experiencing the weight of the body. Maybe feeling the difference in air temperature between your skin and the air around you. Breathing in through your nose, down into your belly. And out through your mouth. I want you to imagine that the year is 2020. And now listen and be aware of the sensations around for a few breaths. What can you hear? What can you smell? And now I want you to imagine that the year is 1542. I want you to breathe and just listen. What are some things that you can hear? What can you smell? What can you taste? Sensation of the body, weight, and the ground. As you breathe in through your nose, down into your belly. Now I want you to imagine the year is 3000 BC. As you're breathing in through your nose, down into your belly. And you're listening. Smelling. Tasting. Sensation of the body, the weight and the ground. And as you continue through your nose, down into your belly, and out through your mouth, just allow your mind to rest curiously on that question. The question is, what would it be like to be alive 100 years ago? What would it be like to be alive 500 years ago? What would it be like to be alive 5,000 years ago? And it gives us some ideas, just some insight, can't say for sure, but some insight into perhaps how it feels right now. It's very similar to how it would have felt 5,000 years ago. Not cognitively, but I have the ability to listen, to breathe, to smell, to taste, to see, to feel. You, as you are now, 5,000 years ago, if you were sitting or standing on the earth in exactly the way you are now, do you think it might feel similar? The experience of the body, weight, and the ground. And just smelling, softly smelling. Imagine if you were just out in a field or on a mountain 5,000 years ago. Is this maybe what it might have smelt like? And if you have your eyes closed, just the soft glow behind the eyelids. If you had your eyes closed 5,000 years ago, is this maybe what the experience of sight would be with your eyes closed? During the day, sitting under a tree somewhere. And as you breathe in through your nose, down into your mouth, down into your belly, out through your mouth. I hope you got a chuckle out of that too. Imagine yourself 1,000 years in the future, the year 3020. And assuming that there's still humans, you sit down somewhere and you close your eyes and you just breathe and you just look through the lens of your experience, your sensation. What do you find? Sounds? Smells? Tastes? Body weight, tactile sensation in the ground. Sights, phosphors behind the eyelids. As you breathe in through your nose, down into your belly, and out through your mouth. And as you softly open your eyes and return to whatever year it is that you think it is, you just remind yourself that it doesn't matter what the era is or what the year is. It doesn't matter what the situations are or the circumstances are. The human experience just remains the same. The context changes, but the experience, the gateways of experience remain unchanged, and the potential for experiencing the sensations, the events, the processes, the rhythms and the happenings of the world remain the same. If you are able to sit tonight and just experience these happenings around you. And you can imagine doing that in 1,000 years from now, in a similar kind of way. And you can imagine doing that 5,000 years ago in a similar kind of way. Hopefully, what it can help you experience is this sense of space, spaciousness, consistency, solidity. That there might be things coming and going, changing in the world, sensations, events, noises, really. As if you're hearing a car that's driving up a road near you, and you hear it get closer and then you hear it get further away. Imagine your daily meditations. You take 5 minutes or 10 minutes at some point and you just reach out with your mind for these sensations. And imagine doing that every day. Imagine after 50 years how you would have just slowly heard the cars of global change coming and going. And you would have slowly witnessed, experienced sensation, like the Doppler effect, of fashions and trends rising and falling. Political changes coming, going. Social lives rising, falling. And so we end up with some of the beautiful quotes from some of the Zen teachers over the centuries. Things like, war comes and the empire rises and falls. I watch farming potatoes from the hillside. Or another one. I sit and I watch. During winter, the grass dies. In springtime, the rains, the grass grows, and all the while I did nothing. I really like it. Not in some kind of nihilistic sense. Just this reminder that there's rhythms and processes in the world, and there might be parts of those rhythms and processes, but there's no requirement for us to become swept away in the experience of it. And if we can just allow our mind to settle into listening, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, what we gain is some abstracted layer of perspective. Maybe we're lucky, we become fortunate that we can hear changes coming. And then those changes aren't so shocking. We can experience trends building, and we can just very casually move ourselves appropriately. One of my favourite metaphors, meditation teacher, says, when you drive a car, you need to look forward, out the windscreen. Can you imagine driving a car with the glass windscreen directly through your feet at the shocking moment-by-moment part of the road that you're driving over? And how much of a white-knuckle flight that would be. And this idea that if we are able to gain some perspective, if we're able to gain some insight into the slow-moving horizon, then we find that emotionally things might level out for us. And if we forget that and we find ourselves caught up in drama, the only activity we need to remember to do is to listen, breathe, taste, smell, feel, see. And usually we drift back in our perspective and we're given just a glimpse of greater view. There's a very good reason why a lot of ancient spiritual mythology and stories talk about the view from the mountaintop, talk about the journey up the mountain and those who make the journey up the mountain. I was listening to another wonderful story from, it's a Shaolin story recently, about this man who decided that he really wanted to climb to the top of a local mountain. And he was getting ready, he had all of his bags, all of his things, and he got there, and there were people on the way back down, people who'd taken that experience, they'd taken that journey. They came back down, and he asked them, tell me, what did you see? What was the experience like? What was it like along the way? What are the dangers ahead for me? What were the rewards and benefits? And what did you got there? And each person, he asked 37 different people, and each person had a different story, different interpretation. And the man, at the end of this, he thought, it's too dangerous. I've heard too much of the risky possibility. And also, I know what it's like now. I've heard all of their stories, so I don't need to climb that mountain. But there is a key difference between experiencing life analytically and theoretically, and the sensation of clarity and knowing that comes from taking that path and arriving and standing on the top of the mountain and looking out across the valley and the mountains in the distance and the way that your heart just soars, and a perspective on not just world events but also our own events. A reminding kind of perspective that there's there's being close up and there's being far away. And when you're far away, things look like patterns. All things fall into patterns and rhythms, even if they are short-lived. They're a series of short-lived patterns. The pattern is a short-lived series. But when we're up very close to them, we don't see them as patterns. We see them as shocking experiences, sudden changes, all of a sudden outbursts. Yeah. And these stories are really there to remind us not to go walk up mountains. It's a metaphor. I mean, definitely do, but that's not the goal. It's to remind us that if there's journeys that are beckoning us in the world, that it is worth our exploration. Yeah, the risk of being injured by our own exploration is always there. The risk of being disappointed or let down by our exploration is always there. And the rewards for the courage for making those journeys is always there. And one can't be found without the other. Joseph Campbell says in one of his awesome one-liners that the treasures you most seek live in the caves you most fear to enter. Wonderful. Just let that sink in for a little moment. It's very true in my life. And so, the meditation, tangible meditation, tactile meditation, what the Buddhists call vipassana, is a method of that kind of experience. It's all it is. It's not the moon, yeah? Don't confuse the finger pointing for the moon. Don't confuse the signpost for the path. It's just a method. And there are infinite number of methods. This is just one of them that I find useful. Maybe you do too. So, we're going to move on to the tangible sensation activity. This is going to be an oscillating observation. So we're going to start in the left hand. As I breathe in through my nose, down to my belly, out through my mouth. I'm going to start with my left thumb. And I'm going to move through this extraordinarily quickly compared to the previous videos. So if you've watched the videos, keep up. If you don't know what I'm doing, just muddle along and then go back and watch the videos later and then do this again. So I'm starting on my left thumb and I'm breathing in and I'm observing sensation of the fingernail, the bed of the nail, the tip of the finger, the pad of the thumb. And I move on, sensations of the joint, differ them from the sensations of the bone and tissue. And then I observe the difference from the joints to the tip of the thumb. And in my mind, I want to flip back and forward between the two. Tip of the thumb, knuckle of the thumb. Tip of the thumb, knuckle of the thumb. If you find that you're moving your eyes, you're probably just trying to metaphorize your understanding or understanding. There's no need to move your eyes. Just make this a mental activity. And you should feel the sensation even more greatly increased. Okay, moving on to the left pointer finger, starting at the nail bed, and then the tip of the finger, and then the pad, observing sensation. Moving down the bone of the finger, differentiating the bone from the tissue of the finger, and the joints. Now observing the difference from the knuckle of the finger to the tip of the finger. And back and forward and back and forward. Tip of the finger, knuckle. Tip of the finger, knuckle. Third finger on the left hand. Starting at the nail bed. And the pad of the finger and the tip of the finger. Left middle finger. Moving down the finger. Experience sensation of the bone, the joints, the flesh. The knuckles, the joints themselves. And now the differentiation, the tip of the finger and the knuckle of the finger. tip and the knuckle of the finger, tip of the finger, knuckle of the finger. Fourth finger, ring finger on the left hand, starting at the nail bed and the pad and the fingertip. And the bone and the joints and the flesh and the knuckle, and oscillating between the knuckle and the fingertip. Just using your mental abilities, your imagination skills. Moving on to the left pinky finger, starting at the top of the finger, the nail bed, the pad, the fingertips. Observing sensation, the bone, the flesh, the joints, left pinky knuckle, and oscillating between the knuckle and the fingertip. Remembering to breathe. Now, taking your observation from the thumb and the pinky. The thumb and the pinky. I'm just looking at them one after the next. The thumb, the pinky, the thumb, the pinky, the thumb, the pinky, in my mind. Creating this oscillating vibration in my thoughts. This kind of beating effect. This set rhythm. And now my second and fourth fingers. And my middle finger and thumb. And now I'm just going to softly scan my mind across all the fingers of the left hand. I'm going to relate them to the fingers of the right hand. Thumb to thumb. So I'm just observing the left thumb sensation and then observing the right thumb sensation. And now the pointer fingers. Now the middle fingers. And now the ring fingers. And now the pinky fingers. And now the palms. All hands. And now the forearms. And the whole hands and arms. And the elbows. And the upper arms. And the shoulders. And the whole limbs, from the arms, shoulders down. And now the left arm only and the left leg. The fingers and the toes. The palm and the sole of the foot. The back of the hand and the top of the foot. The wrists and the ankle. Forearm, the shin, the leg, lower leg. The elbow and the knee. The upper arm and the upper leg. The shoulder and the hip. And the right arm only. Fingers and the right toes. The palm and the sole of the foot. The back of the hand and the top of the foot. The wrist and the ankle. The forearm and the shin, the lower leg. The elbow and the knee. The upper arm and the upper leg. The shoulder and the hip. And resting the arm and resting your mind. Breathing in through the nose, down into your belly, out through your mouth. And this activity, this oscillating activity, can help us to build a reference for sensation observation. And we reference sensations of the left hand against sensations of the right hand. And when the two become similar, then we reference them against the sensations of the hands, reference to the sensations of the feet. And when the four of them become similar, we reference the sensations of the hands and feet from and sensations of the bones of the arms and legs. And when the hands and feet, bones of the arms and legs all become similar, we reference them against sensations of the trunk. When the sensations of the hands, feet, the bones, the trunk become similar, we reference them in comparison to the sensations of the mind. And sensations of the hands, the feet, the bones, the mind become similar. We reference them in regard to sensations of the world, the external, observable sensations. And I'll leave you with a cliffhanger question. What happens when the sensations of the hands, the feet, the bones, the trunk, the mind, the world become similar? Then we reference them against, and I'll leave you to answer that question yourself. As you breathe in and out, as we start to just bring tonight's meditation session to a close, we have 5 or 6 minutes left. I'm going to talk briefly about this idea of with the body. And Buddhism talks about this quite a lot, that there are 5 gateways to the human being, and they are the 5 senses. And each of these gateways are, if you want, in effect, they're like portals of interaction. And the entire physical being, the entire physical body, is seen to be the vehicle of experience. The body itself could be seen to be these 5 gateways. And the interest is what happens, the question is, what happens when you meditate upon a particular gateway of experience, a particular sense? What do you discover? What do you find? And usually, the meditation leads you to a place where you find that that experience isn't really out there. That experience is, I cannot pull apart the sensation that I'm observing and the observation of the sensation. They are mutually dependent. In traditional Chinese med and in old Chinese terminology, they say they are mutually arising. And these mutually arising paradoxes help us to realize that those sensations and the observation of those sensations I can't draw a distinction between them. And I can't really draw a distinction between the observation of sensations and that which I call me. Then rational thought steps in to consider that there is not a distinction that I can find between the sensations and that which is me. And that leads us into a whole other paradigm. That paradigm is unuseful if the sensations of the world are still out there. And then there's things happening to us. And we're at the behest of things, victim of something, the victim of change. Or these changes happen to us. And then this way of thinking can become more useful if we couple it with an idea that I'm in the rhythm and the process of these changes. I'm a mutual component of the rhythms and processes of this relationship. I'm part of the story in this drama. And so the idea to separate ourselves from experiencing hardship is an illusion, not because it can even be discussed on that level, but because the idea is still that there's a line somewhere that separates this from that. And if there's no line that I can find that really separates the experiences that I am having and my interaction and involvement with those experiences, then what happens instead is that I become empowered. I find power because I suddenly realize that I have control and leverage. And power is the ability to leverage. If I realize that this is an integral part of the rhythm of what is happening in the world at the moment, I'm a very cooperative component of all of the dynamics, then a sense of empowerment can return, and with it a sense of responsibility, not to do anything in particular, but in the relationship that is occurring. That there's no one-sided contract. That doesn't exist. And so in this current paradigm, if it would be like being on the ocean in a boat, but having the boat tied up to a post at the pier. And it's all good while things are calm. Once things really start moving, that boat is just dragged beneath the waves. There's no ability for that boat to change up and down with the tides, with the storm. And the boat might find that it didn't really need to sink so massively. It just did because it was so tied to one perspective. It was so tied to one fixed position that it lost the ability to expand and contract with the changes, or to rise and fall, or to observe the coming wave and ride the wave up and ride the wave down, and at worst learn how to swim. So it is 9 o'clock. It's time for us to wrap up the video. I hope that it has been useful for you. I hope that in general you are finding more and more your ability, your capability, your skill set in being able to experience being surprised, being shaken, being moved, and then through not much, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of your meditation, without doing anything mystical, It's inherently magical and completely not mystical in any particular sense of the imagination. All I'm doing is just on things that are already occurring. And I hope that for each of you, it gives you something or reminds you that you already have well intact, something that you can unhitch that little boat and really weather the changing tides. And then when the storm calms down and the times are good, maybe it's fun to tie up the boat. And when the massive tidal wave comes, it's nice to untie the boat. Hope you have a wonderful night, and happy birthday again to Jessica Igwell for tomorrow. I will see you guys on Friday for session 5 of Hoshinden Philosophy and Theory, and there will be a special surprise. It won't be now because I've told you. So there'll be a special upload to the page between now and Friday, just for a bit of fun. So keep your eye on that. Have a good night. Lots of love. Bye.